I always used to take the dog out late at night before going to bed, and I can't remember what time it was, probably 11 or 12. I opened the front door, and you could see these enormous flames coming out of because I lived across the road into Paris Avenue, opposite Talbot's, and I could see these flames over the roof of Talbot's. And so I shot round there, and I arrived just at the same time as the first fire engine.
Hello?
Fire service, can I help you?
I'm in Kimbolton Road. I want to report a fire. I think it's Bedford School Chapel.
That's Bedford School Chapel. That's Kimbolton Road.
That's right, yes, near St Peter Street, at that end of Kimbolton Road.
Can I have your exchange and telephone number?
Bedford 51467.
What's on fire? Is it actually in the building?
That's right, yes, it's on the roof. Whopping great flames coming out of the roof and lots of smoke. I think it's Bedford School Chapel, school grounds.
We'll get someone there.
Well, I was on duty at Bedford at the time, and we got a fire call through control that the school chapel at Bedford School was alight.
I got to the station, found out it was mate pumps 8, Bedford School. Thought, this is going to be a big job. And then tipped out from the station, and on the way over we could see the glow from Willet, and thought, it's going to be a long night.
And as we went along the embankment, we could see the glow in the sky. And strangely enough, after Bushmead Avenue, the 3 junctions on the side of the road funneled the light of the fire across the embankment, and you could see the movement of the fire.
As we made our way to the incident, obviously as Pat said, the glow in the sky, the flames, everything was there, so you knew you got something a bit special actually.
So I watched for a little while as the crowd built, because quite a few people saw it, and then I thought, I'll go home, get my wife and get my camera. So I did that, and I took those photos.
And then started shouting, "Jean, come and look, quick, quick," because the whole of the top of Bedford School, looking over Talbot's, was aflame, and you could see all the sparks going up, and it was just an amazing fire, and we couldn't believe our eyes, and it was crackling.
Then we encountered the heat and the noise. The noise was tremendous and the heat was very severe.
Extended the ladder to its maximum height, and then I had to then walk up this ladder right to the top, which is 100 foot. And then what we did, we then hooked onto the top of this ladder with a monitor. We'd got water coming out of the monitor because we wouldn't have gone up unless we'd already got some form of water. But once I got to the top, it's probably one of the most frightening experiences I've ever experienced, because down on the ground you see the flames, but when we got to the top there was such a wind that the wind was blowing all the embers towards the turntable ladder.
The flames, the wind, the heat was making life extremely difficult for anybody to really do anything. I think at the time Bedford had got a jet into one of the windows at the front of the school, and then it sort of went from there.
Probably the most distinctive thing was the noise, because it was crackling and bright red, and as the fire got going on the roof timbers, great piles of slates dropped down, and so you could hear the crashing and banging of another section of roof going till most of the roof had gone, and then the tower was there, And then suddenly that keeled right over and flopped down.
They say fire is a wild animal, don't they?
Yeah.
And it can talk to you, and that night it did really.
One of my abiding memories, actually, of it is seeing Ian Jones, who was headmaster at the time. He went into his study, because it had a side entrance, I think it still does, several times getting his stuff out, and while the fire raged above him.
As we walked down the road, there were boys all leaning out of Burnaby, and they were coming out and having a look. When we first got there were very few of us there, and we were all standing there aghast, looking through the gates. In fact, it was so emotional that we just couldn't go to bed after, you know. So we didn't get to bed till 4, because we went back and had something to eat, and then went back to see, because it is an incredible sight when flames are leaping into the air like that.
We were living in Compulsion Road at the time, and the fire was on a Saturday evening, and we missed the whole thing. The next morning, all our friends phoned up and said, "Hey, have you seen the fire? Have you seen the fire?" So down we went. And of course, there was the blackened shell. It was an amazing shock. What was quite extraordinary is about the resilience and the organisation of the school was stunning. I don't think we missed any lessons whatsoever, because by Monday morning there were some temporary classrooms, and off we went. The school just kept going. It was quite remarkable, really. Just before the fire, we won a helicopter ride in a charity auction. So we took off, and I just happened to snap away. In those days, you had to be pretty quick, because you only had a few shots in the camera. And the helicopter was rattling around and everything else. But the shot I took turned out very well, and it's in the commemorative book about the fire, of course.
Did you lose anything?
Well, lots of books and a lot of personal items, things like gym kits, animax, coats.
Well, in fact, this is all that I had left, because I took these home to do some revision over the weekend. And the rest of my books were left up in the form, which is now completely destroyed.
Now you're doing GCE O-level this summer.
Yeah.
How's it going to affect you?
Well, at the moment, when I first found out about the fire, I was incredibly worried, because history and geography notes especially, which I've made myself, quite a few pages of them, average of about 2 years' work per subject, so it's really quite a lot of work being destroyed by the fire.
Stunned, shattered, horrified, shocked, bewildered, tragic. These are just some of the words which can only inadequately describe our present feelings. All of us will be reminded of the events this past weekend for a very long time to come. They will leave deep scars on the hearts of a vast number of Bedfordians, and ours particularly, as long as the shell of the building is there to remind us of one of the finest school buildings in this country. We must remember, though, that life is also about people, and fortunately this school has a very fine staff and a first-rate set of boys, and together we must all set about the task of dealing with the problems that have been created for us. Our first priorities have been to ensure school continues. The second will be to attempt to assess the value of the contents belonging to both staff, boys and school, and details of this will follow later this week. Then we shall need to make our permanent plans for the future. What can you do to help? First, react with determination and courage to the challenge that faces you individually and us as a community. Secondly, remain optimistic and cheerful and helpful. It will mean all of us working harder than we have ever worked before, and we cannot escape that fact. The eyes of a large number of people, both nationally and in Bedfordshire, are on us. And we can take great encouragement and great strength from the vast number of people who have already offered their help. We want the next few years to be the best this school has ever had. And when I say best, I don't mean best in terms of Oxbridge, O and A results, Henley, Rosslyn Park, Bisley and so on. That's the icing on the cake. And it's very good indeed. But it is what is underneath that counts. So I mean best in terms of what each one of us can achieve at O and A level. And here let me reassure all O and A level candidates that we will be preparing special circumstances forms for all candidates, explaining to the examining boards exactly what handicaps you have been under. It means best too in everything we do in games, in music, in drama, in general standards, in all our activities and interests. We want people to say at Masters and boys and everyone at Bedford that they have big hearts. So aim for the sky in your work, in your games, your music, your drama, and all your other school activities. Hold your heads up high, both inside and outside the school, during term and in the holidays, so that when we look back on this darkest of hours, we can be justifiably proud of our efforts and the cooperation, which, providing there are no weaknesses in the chain, will pull us through. Good luck to all of you.